At this time, everyone in the room began to examine their reflection. Jim, the man, appeared to be preparing to pull a fire alarm in order to flee. It only took one line, one brutal word from Nas to demolish Jim Jones' entire legacy. You read it, right? One phrase, and the Dipset general is no longer looking so legendary. But here's the real question. Was it just lyrical warfare or a decades-long resentment finally erupting on wax? Because of what? What Nas stated wasn't just an insult, it was a precise strike. A phrase so harsh and contemptuous, it had even the OGs in Harlem murmuring, "Yo, did he really see that?" Jim doesn't take it well. According to sources, he's been sliding behind the scenes, blasting back in Instagram posts and avoiding interviews. Shows are even being cancelled. And now rumors are circulating. Tensions between record labels, internal bickering, and possibly legal action. But what exactly did Nas remark that has caused such uproar? And why now, after all these years? If you thought, think again. This was just rap beef. This has grown into a full-fledged street opera. Stay right here because we are going to deconstruct the line that could have just terminated Jim Jones' career. Forever. Jim Jones had no idea what was going to happen. He assumed it was simply another day, another mic check, another pointless back and forth. But what N said wasn't just a clapback. There was AGM. Hasn't even gotten the eulogy at his career burial at one bar. Visualize this. The cameras are rolling, the podcasts are spinning, and the rap blogs are silent. It was too quiet, and then bang. Out of Nas delivered a phrase so brutal and precise that it slashed through Jim's legacy like a Ginsu knife. Just one line. And the internet began to whisper, did Nas end Jim Jones with a single breath? Since when you're nauseous and the word subtle is poisonous? There's no need for a diss track. You don't even, a complete verse is required. You just dropped a calm, measured punch, and now that the blocks are on fire, now they scour old Jim footage like it's a murder scene. Footage. Memes pile up like eviction notices. Comments are harsh, and Jim the radio went quiet. And let's not pretend we're brand new. This isn't the first time Jim has been brave with his statements and ended up getting slapped by karma. Remember when he tried to dismiss Nas as irrelevant, like Mr. Illmatic did not develop the model for half the culture these dudes are mimicking. Yeah, Jim had the gall to. Nas' legacy is called into doubt. He claimed he wasn't in the top tier. He said he didn't shift the needle. It worked for a time. People I laughed, reposted, and entertained the absurdity. Everyone knew. Though you do not poke nauseous, you don't go fishing in shark water without checking the weather. And now, the storm has arrived. Let's go back and listen again. Jim hopped on the radio mic months ago and received real comfortable. It was too comfortable. I started hurling names and throwing shade, as if Nas wasn't the same man who went head to head with Jay-Z and came out with his crown still polished, stated Nas was dull, overrated, and had little influence on the next generation. It's like calling Denzel Washington an extra or Michael Jordan a benchwarmer. Blasphemy. But this is when it gets messy. It wasn't just a random thought. Insiders let's say Jim was attempting to get hot again and stay relevant. He understood controversies sell. So why not come see a legend? Why not bark up a tree with roots that are deep enough to bury you? And the bait was set. Nas didn't answer right away. Nope, he let Jim cook. Allow the noise to become loud. Allow podcasts to debate. But secretly, and behind closed doors, Nas was writing something deadly. Something lyrical. And when I don't argue with minis, but the line has been dropped. When I constructed the mountain, this was it. That was the full bullet. No name, no screaming, just surgical accuracy. The streets could feel it. Twitter blew out. TikTok video clips of Jim Jones' reaction edits. YouTube channels are studying tone delivery syllables as if it were a crime scene. Then the true devastation began. Club promoters started superting out, brand deals are disappearing. One executively told a source, "We're not going to touch the Jim right now because it's too hot. It's a poor look to insult a king like Nas." Another stated that he played with purpose. Does he serve? Clicks. But this goes deeper than rap. This is about heritage, respect, currency. Culture. Nas is considered hip-hop royalty. Jim may have had a moment, a movement, but Nas is the moment, always has been, always will be, and fans are already catching on. Comments like, Jim Jones ought to apologize to the culture. That is what happens when a deity is tested with a GD. People don't hold back. Even other artists have started softly, unfollowing Jim in order to maintain their brand's cleanliness. Nobody wants to be the next. Collateral harm occurred. While Jim initially tried to laugh it off, posting it was evident that the pain was setting in, as evidenced by selfies and subtle subliminal messages. Because, deep down, he understands miscalculation. He did not merely poke the bear, he strode into the jungle, slapped it on the face, and lighted a match. Now, this is where things take an unexpected turn. A leaked group chat is supposedly from Jim's own crew began to make their rounds. In it, someone supposedly says, "Why would Jim go at Nas like that? We're not ready for lyrical warfare. This is Nas, not Dipset versus the Locks." Another message said, "We told him to chill. Now we're rushing." If those leaks are true, it's official. Jim was warned, but ignored it, which makes as if it wasn't bad enough. More footage video from a backstage function where Jim's own staff started circulating online. Seems anxious. Visibly stressed, phones blowing up. A dude in the background mutters, "He shouldn't have said it." Nauseous line. Boom, more fuel. And the strangest twist of all is that a big documentary team working on a Dipset project has suspended production. Why? They claim the brand is in crisis mode. Imagine that one line from Nas has now jeopardized and full media campaign cannot be made up. And while Jim's quiet grows louder, Nas is out here smiling on red carpets, dropping verses and playing chess. Not fazed, touched or bothered, because when you're a legend, you don't respond. You adapt, and when you speak the world listens. What's even wilder? Rumors today say that numerous high-profile rappers, we're industry titans, are working on a cryptic homage cipher to remind the world who established the standard. Guess whose name isn't on the invite list? Mr. Jones. There is now a new wave flood of memes is sweeping around. Imagine Jim Jones peering into the caption read, "When you realize Nas killed your summer with a haiku, vicious, violent, and hilarious." But this isn't just about rap beef. It's about watching a man gamble his career for a headline and lose everything. The worst part was that Nas didn't even react, didn't raise his voice, didn't write a tweet, just dropped that single bar and let culture does the rest. But it doesn't stop there. And just like that, the room grew chilly, and Jim Jones froze. He'd just unplugged his mic, his confidence, and his whole rap career at once. You could see it, that awkward movement in his seat, that hard jaw clench. The man was trying to play it cool, but his spirit had just packed a duffel bag and departed the building. Because how do you respond when the man you've been secretly dissing for years sentences you? One sentence, one surgical strike. Nas did not scream, flex, or raise his voice. He just dropped that line like a seasoned mob leader delivering orders. Over dinner. Twitter, oh baby, turned into a murder scene. It was calm, calculated, and lethal. There were bodies everywhere, and some were tweeting, "Rip. Jimmy," as if the man had actually passed away. Memes coming in from everywhere. Someone uploaded a video of a coffin performing the Harlem Shake with the Jim's career trying to keep going after Nas ethered him. Another. The user commented, "Jim just got curb smashed by a thesaurus in loafers." And the wild, this wasn't even a diss track, and Nas didn't go to the studio. He didn't need a beat, just a chair, a microphone, and some facts. But wait, let's go back, since some people still don't comprehend why this happened so hard. This was more than just about music. This was personal history. Harlem versus Queens. Street hustle versus poetry. For a long time, Jim had been poking the bear, throwing small shots, claiming Nas wasn't outdoors, wasn't significant, wasn't even inside. People's Top 10 no longer exists. All of the heated discussion has turned into silence. That's the danger of underestimating someone who has never threatened to murder you. Surprisingly, Nas didn't stop there. In the same breath, he turned the lens. When asked why everyone is so focused with being genuine in hip-hop, most rappers can't even be honest with themselves. He said, "These guys walk around with platinum chains and paper soles. The outside is shiny, but the inside is hollow. This is where it counts." Oh my God, was he still chatting about Jim? Probably. A member of the crowd stated, "You could feel the tension shift like a courtroom after a guilty verdict." It seemed as if the air itself understood it needed to be quiet for this execution. And here's the wildest part. Jimmy had been prepared for this moment. That wasn't just a clapback. It Washapop listens when Nas talks. Thus this is a confession from the culture. Even if you despise the man, you know he's created from something real. So, let's talk about what happened. After the interview, Jimmy attempted to respond. The poor guy went live on Instagram. like a wounded soldier, to prove he was still standing. He was ranting, pacing, and clapping his hands, as if the louder he got, the less humiliated he felt. He responded, "I don't care what Nas said. I'm currently outside. I am quite active. I got hits in the streets." And the comments, "Oh sir, you had your moment in 2006. And ballin' is now a stage in your career, not a success. Go sit in one of those quiet places and reflect." The internet Jim's fan following, as devoted as it is, no one likes to defend someone who has recently received on national television, folded like a lawn chair, and this is where it gets darker, because the blog started investigating. And old interviews resurfaced. People began providing receipts from past beefs Jim tried to pick, with Jay-Z, with Pusha T, with pretty much everyone. He had sharper bars than a butter knife. Suddenly, the pattern became evident. Jimmy wasn't attempting to promote hip-hop. He was trying to provoke legends, hoping the focus would eventually settle on him. Again, the old-school beef your way to relevancy strategy. The problem is that you cannot play chess with someone who is already 3 moves ahead. Nas knew exactly what Jimmy was attempting to achieve. Instead of nourishing the ego, he cracked it wide open. And just as you imagined, things couldn't get any worse when radio shows began ridiculing Jim on air. God said. Jim Jones tried to go Nassus and got a history lesson in the jaw. Ibro remarked. This isn't 2005. Respect your elders or become humbled. Even Flex, who used to ride hard for Dipset, sent a cryptic tweet saying, "There are layers to this. Few could feel the tide turning. This industry, as slow as it might be, I heard the shot, and, more crucially, they discovered who lived." Because here is the real truth. This wasn't merely a rebuttal. This was Nas reminding everyone in the game, who still had the pen. The worst part for Jimmy was that he had no backup plan. No hot hit, viral freestyle, or social the media used a stunt to manipulate the headlines. He was left with nothing but bravado, and bravadodos not streamed properly. Now, there were whispers, unsubstantiated, that Jim attempted to contact several individuals behind the scenes. Tried to get Nas on a call, maybe hush it up, or spin it as if it was merely competition. But from what we heard something, but Nas did not respond. And, frankly, why would he? When you stop someone's momentum in one line, there's nothing left to talk. But don't worry. This isn't over, because just when you think the storm is ended, a new front comes in. And guess who joins the conversation? Next, we'll get to that next. Because of what transpired next wasn't limited to Nas and Jim. It brought in an entirely new name. Nobody saw it coming. Let us only say that when this new voice spoke, the industry was shaken again. Ready? And just when you thought the narrative couldn't be any more exciting, Nas did it again. This wasn't some backstage moment or tangential remark buried in a podcast. No, he doubled down on the same stage that gave birth to the beef. With each bar, the crowd reacted as if he were lighting fire to Jim's legacy, which he had been desperately attempting to defend. Jim was remained mute, frozen. It was like observing someone attempting to swim in wet cement. Now, this is where even more of a dismal turn. Sources, yes, those mysterious and talkative sources. Everyone began whispering about phone calls. Phone calls come from Jim's crew went to several sites. Begged and pleaded for some of Nas's footage to be removed or shadow banned. He's damaging our brand, according to one of the messages. Excuse me, your brand? Sir, Nas just made your entire legacy appear like a small typo. First, there was hip-hop history, followed by the brand's fashion endorsements have gone cold. And a sneaker collab Jim has been hyped for months. A liquor brand that had featured him prominently was silently dropped. I silently unfollowed him on Instagram. Can you imagine the humiliation of being have you been digitally ghosted by vodka? Now let's chat about Fat Joe's barbecue. Yes, it is random, but believe me, it matters. Consider a Bronx summer picnic in your own backyard. Everyone is there, including Joe, Remy, Busta, and Swiss. The music is banging, and the vibes are high. And guess who walks in all smiling? Rocking all white linen as if he hasn't just been hauled through the lyrical trenches. Jim. You could sense conversations came to a halt, as the energy shifted like a slowly gathering thunderstorm, plates froze in midair. Even the DJ paused, unsure whether he should switch the tune. Tooth the dagger, Nas was already there. And the man, he didn't even flinch, simply raised his glass and toasted the moment like a mobster. A peace pact. And let out a calm, pleased to see you, Jim. You could cut the tension caused by a broken record deal. And let's not even get into what transpired later that night. Someone I won't name, but they rhyme with beak bl, shared a private video of Jima Studio pacing frustratedly, slamming his hat on the table, shouting, "I never should have gone after Nas, that man is thine Timberlands." The devil pulls a full confession, as if it were a but. It doesn't stop there. Now, the fans have, spoiler alert, they're ruthless. Comments beneath Jim's latest postings, a battlefield. One user wrote that Jim Jones is the first rapper to commit suicide live on video. Another piped in, "Should have simply drunk your tea and watched your lobby." And the memes, "Lord have mercy." One viral meme displayed an image of Jim that was edited on a chalk outline with the text "hip-hop crime scene, as murdered." Another had a false obituary. Jim Jones' career was ended with a single metaphor and a beat drop. But here's the real kicker. Industry executives are now utilizing this as a case study. I am not kidding. A leaked Zoom meeting from a major label reveals the PowerPoint titled "What Not to Do: The Jim Jones Protocol." With bullet points, don't start a poetic beef unless you can rap. Avoid picking disputes with legends during their cultural revival, and, for the love of hip-hop, never underestimate a silent man with a pen. Insiders claim Jim's team is planning a total redesign. For example, instead of being a rapper, you could become a real estate billionaire and launch a podcast called Brick by Brick. Brick is rebuilding after Nas, but they might be too late. Nas did not merely mock Jim, he released a warning to the entire rap game. Mention my name at your own risk. And that, my friends, is the type of reputation that does not require defending. It enters the room, and everyone else stops talking. Nas is now thriving, with streams increasing dramatically. A deluxe vinyl version of Illmatic recently sold out in 9 minutes. Even that Netflix documentary, which became popular in 2016, is trending again. This man feuded with Jim Jones and unwittingly became viral among 3 generations of hip-hop fans. Meanwhile, Jim reports that he's gone low profile. No gigs, no studio sessions, just radio silence. A close buddy who may or may not be the same guy, that's Jim, who is always conveniently nameless, stated that he has been doing a lot of self-reflection and evaluating his translation. He's been hiding out and praying that Nas doesn't. But, listen, let me explain this in simple terms. This wasn't simply a quarrel. It was a master seminar in lyrical warfare. Is a warning of what happens when you come after a monarch without Nas. Did not just terminate the disagreement. So, whether a rapper feels daring, bold, or if you're bored and want to call out a living legend, recall this story. They may want to question themselves. Is my catalog ready for the smoke? Is my pen made for war? The most essential thing is my career disposable. Because NS showed us that one well-placed bar can collapse a brand. In less than 3 minutes. You may leave a legacy and spark a societal transformation. Jim wasn't simply vanquished, he was erased. And now the $1 million was this merely history unfolding, or a straight-up career? Jim didn't catch on to Mike's execution after that one line from Nash. Didn't just lose the rap fight, he lost the entire war. The narrative, clout, and legacy have all been shattered like cheap glass. And who could have predicted this? Jim was chest-pounding during interviews, shouting, "We run New York." The following poof was silenced by a legend, who didn't even raise his voice. But what does this say about the culture and loyalty? How fragile are these rap empires? One lyric, one truth bomb, and it's all comes crumbling down. So now I have to ask you, was Nas out of line? Was this a diss, or a eulogy intended for this generation? And, does Jim Jones recover from this? Or do we just throw his mic in the Hudson and call it a wrap? Leave your opinions in the comments. Was this hip-hop justice or just petty rap revenge? Hit that like button if Nas just earned your lifetime respect. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe because that's just the beginning. More facts, more takedowns result in additional pandemonium, since when we don't just let bars be this dangerous. React. We take pictures of the damaged areas.